land conversion from property known as West Metro Core on 11 Shield Road to the Conley Mill project on Conley Mill Road.
Good afternoon, Mr. President, members of the council. Steve Miller, Director of Recreation Parks Tourism for Wicomico County. Thank you for the opportunity to be here today to talk about the program Open Space Land Conversion. If it's okay, Mr. President, I'll be very brief. I know it's been a long morning, but for the sake of the public, I wanted to just take a quick moment to explain for folks watching what a land conversion is and what it does, and then talk specifically about what's being proposed here today. Most counties in Maryland, including Wicomico County, rely on a state grant program called Program Open Space. We refer to it as POS, to both acquire and develop park properties for public recreational use. The program's it's a model program across the country. It's been in place in Maryland for over 50 years, and that's the main funding source that we utilize both to acquire and to develop our 40 park properties. Most of them are tied in some way to Program Open Space. Like most grant programs, Open Space does have some strings attached. On the acquisition side, specifically with the issue today, when you acquire property with POS funds, there's a perpetual land restriction that's written into the deed that would require that property to be accessible to the public and then to be exclusive to public recreation use. So, for example, we couldn't purchase a property with Open Space and turn it into a recycling center or turn it into office buildings or something like that. It has to be for public recreation, open to the public, and that is intended to be a forever designation. The one exception to that, if something happens in a jurisdiction, if plans change, if a jurisdiction wants to repurpose a property for something different, if they intended one thing and then things change, the one exception is what we're talking about today, which is called a land conversion, which essentially lifts the obligation from one piece of property and moves that obligation to a different piece of property that would then be obligated under POS rules. I will tell you land conversions are very rare, and that's by design. The state wants them to be rare. They're very time consuming, very hard to achieve. Generally speaking, when you apply for a land conversion, that's a 12 to 18 month process. But that is the path that the state has provided should a jurisdiction be in that situation. Again, for information purposes for the public, according to the POS guidelines, there's 3 criteria that would need to be met for the state to even consider a land conversion. Criteria 1 is that the property you are converting to has to be equal or greater acreage. It has to be a bigger property. Number 2, it has to be equal or greater as far as appraised value of that property. And then thirdly, it has to be equal or greater to recreational value. That one's a little bit more subjective, but you have to make a case that this is of greater recreational value to the residents that you serve. So if all 3 of those are in place, you can't have 2 out of 3. You need all 3 of those in place. Then the state would consider a land conversion in that case. But that is the provision. Yes, sir.
Who makes that decision on the state level?
There are 3 departments. So it's Department of Natural Resources, state, the budget management, and then planning. So you'd need all 3 state secretaries to sign off.
Public Works, Board of Public Works.
The funding, yes, this would go through the Board of Public Works, but those 3 secretaries would have to sign off on a conversion and evaluate it. So that, generally speaking, that's what a conversion is and what it does. It places that restriction. Now today, as you've heard, we're talking specifically about a proposed land conversion from the West Metro property on 11 Shield Road that was acquired with open space funds back in 2009. And that would be shifting that designation to the Conley Mill property, which was donated to the county back in 2019. Some of you are aware of this, but that conversion was proposed back in 2020, and actually in the spring of 2021, the state did approve that. All 3 secretaries did sign on, but that was not adopted on a local level, and so that ended up getting pulled, and that conversion did not take place. Since that time, we pivoted and we did a master plan at West Metro, which you heard referred to today. But for various reasons, to this point, nothing has been developed at 11 Shield, and it remains essentially farmland at this point. But it still has, as we speak, the program open space designation. So that brings us to today, and I did advocate for the land conversion back in 2020. I still Obviously, I'm here to advocate again for this conversion. I do think it's in the best interest of the county. I think you've heard it in the public comments, but the opportunity at Conley Mill is a tremendous opportunity for a lot of reasons. It's a very unique one that I think would benefit both our residents and visitors to our county. You heard referenced its unique natural features. Conley Mill is a unique property. We don't have a lot of properties like it, that have elevations like it, that have features like it, and we have an opportunity to provide some amenities that we don't currently have, and that's unique. You don't get that opportunity often. Mr. Hastings mentioned proximity and connectivity. Where it sits, you have the opportunity to connect both to our Henry Parker Athletic Complex, which is a jewel in our park system, and also the city of Salisbury's Naylor Mill Forest, which they have a bunch of trails, and you have the opportunity to connect all three together and really make that a unique and very special opportunity, again, for folks who live here, but also our visitors. And then you also have an opportunity, and some of you took part in this last year, the state has indicated that they're open to partnership park type opportunities. And when you take a property this large with the opportunity to connect city, county, and potentially engage the state, I think you have additional opportunities there, which I think we could certainly leverage and take advantage of to potentially develop this into a park. So in my view, I would could keep going, but I would just say that these opportunities are too good to pass up. We have a second swing at this, and I do think this would certainly be in the county's best interest. I'll also point out before I finish, and I think someone made this comment, doing a conversion of this type would not eliminate the possibility of a park at Levin-Dashiell. What this would do is remove the obligation, remove the restriction, but essentially what you would do is create a blank slate at Levin-Dashiell. So if it's the will of the county to still build a park there, you can still do that. That is still an option, but what you're doing is eliminating that obligation that would come with that program open space designation. And so that would be, in my view, a separate matter that the executive branch and legislative branch would decide what do you do with that property, but it would remove that obligation. Lastly, in terms of process, I've talked with our state contacts. They're aware of this meeting today. They have told me that the approval process in this case, because the state has already looked at this once and already approved this once, now granted it was different people at that time, but they said since it has gone through that process that likely this would be much quicker. So I would hope somewhere in that 6 month to 12 month as opposed to 12 to 18, maybe faster if we're lucky. And if the council decides to move forward with this, we would request a letter of support from the council indicating that this is what the county wishes to do, to pursue. And that would give the state the assurance that this is the direction that the county wants to go. We've updated the appraisals that are required. We've updated the application materials. So should the council want to move forward, we could send this off by the end of the week and get that process started and get that moving. So with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions or address any issues.
Just for clarity, I guess on that process, you're saying for, you said, of course, the process could be longer, and then also mentioning the council moving forward with the letter. I would love for us to move forward with the letter today to go ahead to support it. I don't know if that's something that's needed now, or if that's something as it goes further to the Board of Public Works and others.
I think, I'm sorry.
No, yeah.
Yes, so I think it would be helpful, frankly, on the front end, just in light of the fact of what happened the last time. So I do think that would, our intent would be to, if the council wants to go that direction, would be to submit that with the application, that this is the direction that we'd want to go.
After we get this done, if we get it done, I know that a lot of the folks in that area, and it's been in support of this, has wanted this park to stay in a more natural state. Mm-hmm. Is there things that the council can do or the county can do to ensure that that it will stay instead of it becoming a say a motorized park or a lot of different things that wouldn't fit into the norm? Can we do restrictions on that after we get things changed?
So it will come with inherent restrictions with open space that would fall into that category, but as far as passive recreation, active recreation. So if you're suggesting like to restrict it from like building more ball fields or something like that,
Right.
that would be, in my view, I think that would happen in the master plan process. So if this was designated a park, we could initiate at some point a master plan process, and that would be the point that the public certainly would be part of that, but then an executive and legislative branch would decide that. So I don't think on this end, the designation that exists would say it's open to the public, it's public recreation, but I don't think we would decide what it is at this stage.
I know it's early.
Yeah.
The other thing, the Levin to Shield property, at some point in time, can the county apply for more program open space money for that if they wanted to?
To develop it?
5 years from now, 3 years from now, whenever?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. So with I mentioned the forever restriction on an acquisition, unless there's a land conversion. If you use funds to develop it, then there's a 20-year obligation that you'd have to keep that open to the public for that 20-year period. So we would just have to do it with that understanding.
Jeff?
Morning.
Morning.
I got a couple things here. The Levin to Shield property is currently leased
Yes.
to a farmer.
Yes.
It'll stay that way, right?
I think in the short term, yes, and then until decisions are made as to what to do with the
You
property
know how
long
long
term.
the lease is?
We did it annual, not knowing if we're going to develop it, so we did it annual with renewals.
Year to year?
Yes.
I see in here that the 55 acres that is the borrow pit is not included as part of this proposal. Would it be part of the proposal after the borrow pit is over with, or is that a forever thing?
So it doesn't have to be a forever thing, but I will tell you, I did get an answer to the question that was asked yesterday. I did talk to DNR this morning. They said they would not approve including that in the conversion if we're going to be digging more than 3 to 5 years, which my understanding is we have longer runway to completely mine that. So
Okay.
what they recommended is we convert excluding the ponds, which is what we did the last time, allow that work to happen. And then if and when down the future, once that work is complete, I certainly think you could incorporate that into the park, but
Okay.
it would not, in this particular conversion, guarantee that as far as in the deed.
For now?
Correct.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Have you ever done anything about fencing?
I have not. I'm not. Again, this is not a park. I hope to have that problem someday.
So that's that fellow's problem. Okay, all right, we'll talk to him about that. Okay.
On the borrow pit.
Yes.
Do we know what is our obligation time-wise for the existing situation for the mining? Is there a set time that it's going to be used for that purpose?
So I would defer to Mr. Corey on this.
Adam Corey, Deputy Director of Public Works. So, yeah, Steve and I have been talking about this quite a bit. And, you know, the engineer's estimates from the limits of disturbance that we have permitted could take you to 2040. That, you know, and Steve and I have talking about the fact that this designation move of open space monies, this gets us in the right direction for Conley Mill to come to fruition, right? But taking ponds to 2040, does that get us where we want to be from the standpoint of some of the other concepts that are laid out for the use of the property in the future? Those two things, I think, are in conflict with each other. So we got to determine, you know, the will of the council, the will of the people, and the will of the use, to see, is that really truly going to be the timeline?
So you're stating how long they can be mined by our current permit?
If, based on our estimates, based on the needs, like when we take the data and go down what the needs are going to be per year, you have like a standard set daily cover regimen of X amount of cubic yards, maybe 50,000 cubic yards for example. And then you say for a horizontal expansion, which should be coming on to play in 2029 through 30, you may remove 300,000 cubic yards of material. All those different years into the future are planned out in our estimating documents. That's where we came up with that. You know, could you dig it all out faster? Sure. Question is where you're going to put it. And then we have to weigh other things as well. We've also, since this conversation has been going on, we've also changed how we're assessing and utilizing dredge material for beneficial reuse. So every 10,000 cubic yards of dredge I'm utilizing for intermediate cover at the landfill. That's robbing Peter to pay Paul. Well, I don't mean that's not really the right saying, but that's 10,000 cubic yards that could have come from Conley Mill.
It would extend the
Exactly. So
lifetime of the borough pit.
at the end of the day, what I guess I'm trying to offer the council is, and Steve and everybody out there, we want to make this work what's right for everybody. So the timeline, we need to discuss what it's going to look like. Yeah. But I know for a fact we can easily get, and we should, especially when we take into consideration horizontal expansion up until and past 2032 for absolute sure, because you're going to need that material without a doubt. And dredge material is not going to do it. You need select fill.
Well, my understanding was dredge material may not work anyway because of its consistency.
Well, so we've had conversations about
Yeah.
that, specifically me and you here at this table. And pleased to tell you, the dredge material we're using as intermediate cover on our exterior slopes is holding up very well to erosion and sediment. And although it's dry as a bone right now, you hydroseed that stuff and it starts growing quick.
Good news.
So it is good. That's actually working out pretty well. But like I say, it's just all about having a conversation. I frankly think about, what the desires are. But we need that select fill for horizontal expansion, for no doubt, and that's going to be significant.
Just a quick question. You don't have to answer this, but you said we could be digging for about 10 more years.
You could,
And,
more than that.
If for some reason it could be sped up, just because you just can store it somewhere, would you be able to store anything possibly on the Potts property and then transition from there to the landfill
So-
as needed?
Good question. Conceptually, you don't want to handle it twice.
Right.
You don't want to handle it twice. The nice thing about when you get material closer to the landfill, when I say that, I mean within walking distance of it. Now you don't have to take it on a road. What's behind the landfill that we use in stockpile material, whether it be intermediate cover, daily cover, other mulch materials, whatever the case may be, you can throw an off-road truck to that. And an off-road truck is just that. It's staying off-road. It has, double the capacity of a tandem axle dump truck. So that's where you're loading the material yourself, bringing it yourself, only maybe a mile and a half, versus hauling it from Conley Mill. We're already doing that every day.
Right.
We're literally stockpiling our daily cover from Conley Mill right there in our back area behind the landfill. We have to do that already. The question is, how much room do you have? Well, Potts is our next mine. That's what it's for. Again, I think it really just there's plenty of concepts up there. I think it's just really what's the will of the council, the administration, and the people of how long do we want to forestall that? Because
But you don't have to answer that today.
it'd be hard to without knowing all the factors. But like I say, there's options there.
Thank you.
Mr. Miller, appreciate you being here, and Mr. Corey, too. There's no doubt, I think the council is willing to move forward, or actually anxious to move forward to make this conversion happen. It's a series of, I guess, timing. If we were to do this, and let's say that the state were to grant the conversion within the next year, it sounds to me like we would still have to wait 14 years in order to begin the process. If we convert it, how many years do we have to sit on it? I mean, we sat on West Metro Corps for many years. I understand, but isn't there a time limit for program open space?
Yeah, usually the threshold is about 5 years. That is what they want. They want you to do something with it. They don't like what's happened at West Metro, which is it's sat for a long time, and that's part of why I'm here. Is we got to do something. But to answer your question, I think there's 234 acres at the property. What we're excluding from the conversion is about 55 acres, which is where Adam and his team are working. So you got 180 acres to work with. So I certainly think you could do that while that other stuff's happening. That you would have to put, as Mr. Holloway says, protective measures in place, and you've got to organize it so you sequence it in a way that makes sense, and you give access to the property to parts where you want people to go and not to go. So I certainly think you can phase that, and I think that would be our intention, is to do that.
So it wouldn't hold up the development of the park.
No, I don't believe so. I think you just have to be strategic to stay out of each other's way and make sure that you're getting people where you want them to go and keep them away from where you don't want them to go. And I will say, this did appear in the CIP. One other thing I forgot to add is that over the years with the farm lease at Levin to Shield, we've collected funds for that farm lease. So we have about $300,000. And the expectation from the state is that money goes with the land the restricted property. So essentially, we'd have about $300,000 you could start a master plan, or we could do like we did at Pirates Wharf, which is use that money to leverage to get grants and start that process. But I think initially you'd want to start with a master plan, so we could look at that whenever we get direction to do that. So
Is council okay as far as moving a letter of endorsement forward? Everybody's good, right?
Yes.
All right, so we can do that, Ms. Hurl, you can put that together. She's very quick about doing that. So we'll
He's
we'll have
probably
for
got
you
it
before the
drafted
end of the
already.
week, I
all right,
guarantee.
that would be great.
I have
Thank
one
you.
Joe,
thing.
yes.
Yeah, Mr. Corey, before you and a lot of people that's sitting in this room and a lot of people on this council, we had multiple deaths on Mount Herman Road in a
Corey.
Corey. Sorry, Mr. Corey.
Oh, I know that one.
But
Different
anyway,
spelling.
And in fact, we had 2 in one day. Could you put together a cost of fencing that in?
Yeah, so
I've
I
asked this
It
over
took
numerous years now.
$2.5 to $3.2 million
For
to get
a chain
that
link-
the
for a chain-
entire. No, that would be for the high fence like we have around the pit at the landfill.
I
For
don't think
the,
you're going to have any fence that's going to keep people out if they really want.
oh
to get
Lord,
in there.
you're not kidding. I mean, it's keeping
Just a chain
honest
link
people
fence
out.
That would, 6 foot tall.
Yeah. I can go back and get calculations on that. I bid it out. Well, I didn't bid it out, but I calculated it based on what we already put at the bar pit there, which is that's 10-foot with chain link and barbed wire angled out. I will certainly get that. I'll certainly get some numbers for you.
And I tell you, Ms. Shields mentioned it a while ago about how hot the summer is. Kids discover that place.
Oh yeah, sure. And that's the other thing about the ponds themselves. No matter what you do, and into the future, if and when you decide to say, okay, let's move towards the water features as everybody would desire them to be, you still got to put a significant amount of capital expenditure into reclaiming them so that they are safe.
Right.
There's only so much Mother Nature can do to get those sediments to level in there and make those edges hard. Right now, you can sink right to your neck.
And Adam, and that's because it's a quarry, and quarries,
Yeah.
you just sink.
There's no benches
and then it's straight down drop off on the
Yeah, you
side.
gotta be really
So
careful.
it's not safe at all.
Not
the way it is.
sloped. It's not.
No,
Sloped, yeah.
No,
like
and that's what
normal
we would need to do. You'd need to reclaim them that way with proper slopes, benches, stops. That way, if you did have somebody that were to roll down a certain part, you want to get rid of those 4-to-1 slopes. That's a lot of earthwork. Not a lot of earthwork. Yeah, but yeah, I'll get you some numbers on a 6-foot chain link fence. Anybody wants to get over it, they can get over it. But at least it's there, I guess.
Liability.
Yeah.
Do not.
Thank you both very much. So, Mr. Corey, how long do you think your presentation on the Cooper Road surpluses?
Mr. Illuminati and also the property owner.
All right, then we're going to recess.
Okay.
About 20 minutes.
All right.
We'll reconvene. at-
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
So we're going to recess for 20 minutes.